Seeing Mommy All Day Long shares the journey of a young boy named Alex and the women he encounters through his day who supports him on his path to success. Today, I talk with the author of this children's fiction book, Vincent Pendarvis, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Vincent Pendarvis, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I know that you are a Boys and Girls Club president up in Orangeburg, and you're also a school guidance counselor. I know that according to the Times Democrat, which is in Orangeburg, you are an Orangeburg resident who knows the ups and downs of single parenthood for many children, which really is the difference between 40 years ago to right now. And in fact, you wrote your first children's book called Seeing Mommy All Day Long, detailing the strength of a mother and other women who keep a young boy encouraged and on the right path. Let me ask you this, Mr. Vincent. What is the biggest difference about single motherhood now, 40 years ago to right now?
Well, I think the difference is now is that they're still nurturing is the promising part of it, that they're still doing their part as mothers. Fathers were out of their lives for a while, but I see a big difference in the change now of the economic system, how things being done differently now. But I think the task was 40 years ago was very difficult because dad wasn't around for factors, and the single mom had to rear the child, or grandparents were rearing them, and aunties were rearing them. But now they got an overall factor that comes into place now. Dad's in lives in more ways than one. And I'm seeing that from a different change from 40 years ago.
And obviously, you talk about the single motherhood and what a lot of those people did, obviously to take care of the child. What was that economic system back then versus now?
Well, I think was that when dad wasn't around, that, being that dad wasn't in the home, and there are a lot of economical situations why dad wasn't there. Dad wasn't there because he went into the military. He had to provide for the family. Dad wasn't there because he had, there was out on the streets trying to find a way to get work. Dad wasn't there because he was in prison, sadly said. And then also dad was there because dad got, went off and got killed or something. So some other factors that filter in, and why the economical system and why moms had to work so hard to make sure that everybody got provided for. So, that was the factors.
And what are the other factors that you're seeing today?
Today, I see that more black males and more people of culture and color are back into the homes. More getting economic opportunities. Thank God for our new president that we have a lot of ideals, a lot of good things that are in place that helps with the situations. As me, I was a current Boys and Girls Club kid. I grew up in the club and actually grew up into presidential of the club, in the same club that I grew up in, and my son did also. So we provided opportunities for the young males, for the young men, for the people of color, and the things that they wouldn't have had, and it's ongoing. It's still happening, in a good way.
And let me go here to Charleston because, back in the early 90s, that's where I went after school every day to the Boys and Girls Clubs at the Shaw Center in Charleston. What is the fate of organizations like the Boys and Girls Clubs these days?
Oh, well, let me tell you, the initial beginning of the Boys and Girls Club was started with, I don't know if you know the whole history of it, but it was started by women. And they was looking out for boys that were in trouble. It started off in New York City. But they was just a boys club. And then when the later 70s and 80s, that they started, well, girls get in trouble too. So, so it became the Boys and Girls Club. And that we were put together culturally with boys and girls of different colors and things, and it just matched real good.
Absolutely. And I know that obviously you talk about the ups and downs of single parenthood with your first book, Seeing Mommy All Day Long. Why Seeing Mommy All Day Long? Why now for this book?
Well, Seeing Mommy All Day Long came out of the concept because when I grew up, I lost my mother at the age of 7, 8 years old. So I wasn't like most of my friends. We were playing ball and everything, basketball and of course and everything, just trying to diverse together. And but their dads weren't in their lives, and I realized that they didn't have their fathers around. And so what we did was we talked, we shared conversations, and that got me into the counseling aspect. Talking with my friends, and seeing out what the were some of the downfalls, why the dads weren't there, what was happening, and why mom was rearing the family on her own. So that just kind of geared me towards seeing mommy all day long. Now the story seeing mommy all day long came from a kid, one kid. His kid's name was Alex. You will see
Okay.
behind me.
Yes.
His kid name was Alex, and he was reared by his mom and his single mom. Dad wasn't there at the time because dad had some difficulties, which will come up in the sequel, which I'm working on. But seeing mommy all day long came from the concept of that mom. Everywhere this kid Alice turned, he saw a mother figure,
Mm.
and he was always keeping me. Alice wasn't a troubled kid; he was a good kid, and he was very mannerable. Everyone wanted to look out for Alex to make sure that he was doing the right thing and staying on the right path. Because his mom wanted him to do well, because she had to go out and work hard, and she had to make ends meet. So she had all her friends, all her teachers, all everybody he saw, and every day we turned that whole day, he saw mommy all day long, telling him, "Hey, listen, mommy told you not to do this. Mom told you not. Make
Yes.
sure that you do it. You don't get in no trouble." So that's what seeing mommy is all about. Yeah.
Who was on your back, for lack of a better word, when you were growing up, saying this is what your mom wanted you to do?
Absolutely. Well, my mom, like again, I said, my mom died when I was age of 7, 8 years old. But I remember that love. That's what we're missing, the love. You
Mm.
know, you get from your dads, you get the security and protection. But from my mom, you get that love and affection. And so, but I got that, and I understood if I didn't get it from her, I got it from my sisters, my aunts, and all the women folk in my neighborhoods. So therefore, I went out on venturing to find someone who would take the place of my mom.
Mm. And obviously you wrote the children's fiction book titled "Seeing Mommy All Day Long." It shares the journey, as you mentioned, of Alex and the women he encounters through the day who provide the support he needs. What other type of support were you getting as a kid?
You say the sport?
Support, yes, sir.
Support. Oh, the support that I got was from all the my friends. You know, from playing ball. Their mothers what became providers for me. I didn't have it, so I seeked it. And when I saw it, they took me in as one of their own. I mean, they had kids and everybody, but they took me in and they understood my situation. So it was more loving and caring. So I got the support from my friends' parents, and I wrote about them. I put this so fiction and nonfiction within the book. So some of the characters are real life within the book.
Wow,
And
wow. And I know you want people to go out and read the book, but what exactly are Alex's needs?
Alice's needs is that he wanted to fulfill what his dad was not there doing.
Mm.
So he thought he could be strong, independent, and provide help his mom because he was was a helper. But he went on to do what he needed to do at a young age. He had to help his younger brother and sister. He had to help his mom make sure he stayed out of trouble. He had to make sure that everything went well, so he wouldn't get into trouble and making embarrass his family.
And how did you didn't get in trouble when you were growing up without your mom?
Without a mom, I have older brothers and sisters. However, they were everybody doing their own thing. But I found sleep and refuge in Boys and Girls Club. I got job early. I just was more disciplined and driven, and then started schools. Couldn't complete college when I initially started
Wow.
because I had to work.
Yeah.
So my life is kind of like Allison's on. And I started and went on to dropped out of college and went back to work and worked. And finally, I said, "Let's go to college. Let's do college." To the Boys and Girls Club. I had this Mr. Eklund. He was our provider, the leader. And he actually was a white male that helped me guided me and taught me the discipline that I needed. So
Wow,
there,
that's
there in
amazing.
a nutshell.
Yeah. And what is Alex's perspective of discipline?
His overall, because he got a father figure. He has a father figure in his life, and he has a lot of male and he had a lot of nurturing to his mother and aunts and family and friends. So his perspective, where he's now, and he's a graduate student at from Howard University, HBCU,
Yes.
and actually he's in the film is also. So his perspective has grown. Yeah.
That's amazing, and we are so happy to have two great HBCUs right up there in Orangeburg. But you
Absolutely.
also said this too. It's about this young boy who goes on to this particular day, and all he saw were mother figures. Someone who
Right.
reminded him of his mother. His mother told him,
Uh,
"Hey, look out for my boy. Take care of him." What were those particular days like for Alex?
no, those days was like they were tough
Mm,
because you had to, at the age of about 8 to 9 years old, you pretty much taking on manhood, and but he persevered, and, and eventually scholarship came along with that. But I think through this course of the day with him seeing mommy all day long was that he was getting the respect and the love from other individuals, and they showed that because he had mannerism. He wasn't a bad kid.
right.
He was a good kid, actually, but he just want to make sure this good kid didn't get in any trouble. So that's how his lifestyle was and became, and which made him grow up into the person he is today.
And when did you know, or when did you get that respect from the people that loved you?
Oh wow, great. It was more so along the lines when I started my early career as a restaurant manager. Yeah, I became a restaurant manager at the age of 26. I had a staff of 70 some odd individuals and four assistant managers, and I was
Mm,
the youngest person on the team. So
wow.
I had to grow up with some respect and proper and learn a lot of stuff in leadership along the way. And all this happened during the time of Hugo. I don't know if you remember the storm that came through. They
Mm,
came through, and everything was devastated at that time. But my leadership grew from that point,
wow.
and I'm the person who I am now.
And what is leadership in your mind now?
Leadership in my mind now is being a former counselor, a leadership manager. I'm always persevering. So I'm also part of the organization Omega Sci-Fi, which is and we strive on we strive on manhood, scholarship, and perseverance. And those are the things. Those are the goals, and that's what keeps me going strong.
Oh,
So yeah.
absolutely.
So
Yes, indeed. And I know in the book, young Alex is essentially seeing his mother all day long do others who are sharing similar positive affirmations that she would share with him. What similar positive affirmations were shared with you when you were growing up?
um, look out for your fellow person. Um, don't go into certain places where you feel unwelcome in. Do diligence to make sure that you embarrass your family for one thing, and get the education that's offered to you. You know, so those are the things that I build my foundation on.
And yeah, I know you said there are no men throughout the whole storyline. So I was just
Mhm.
merely stating that women, thank God, would step up and take over because there's no father around. They're doing
Mhm.
the job of the father and the mother. What was it like for the
Mhm.
women to do the job of the father and the mother?
Now, it is the backbone. Women are the backbone of our culture for sure. We got moms, aunts, sisters, but mostly a lot of kids now are with grandmas, and they stay because of certain situations and so forth. And I learned that as a counselor, working with young people. Um, Women are the backbone of the operation. I take my hat on. I take my hat off to the black, especially black woman. I take my hat off to because there's no one who go and rear someone for 9 months and take care of them, feed them, nurture, make sure they get what they need to get, and still go to work. No, so they are the backbone of our operation.
Yes, indeed. When did Alex learn about his father?
In the upcoming sequel, I don't want to tip my hat too much on that
Yes,
one.
sir.
This is when they meet again, and because what they did initially, because it wasn't like dad left, dad had to go for reasons, and so when we meet up in the sequel, they're going to make this bond again. Not to tip my hat so much,
Yeah.
but when he left, when they departed, let's say when they departed in the beginning, it was because of certain situations and circumstances that he had to do and take care of. And so he left little Alex in charge of the household. You're the man now. You watch out for your younger brother and sister. And make sure you don't stay out of trouble. And you do what your mom tell you to do. So that's the initial. So in the sequel, the upcoming is when they unite and they talk about the upcoming things and the beauty of that, how this is going to play out. And we're that close.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
We're that close.
That close. And obviously, you had to, take care of your siblings growing up. Where were you emotionally with that?
Well, I came from a family of seven, and me being the youngest. And of course, like I stated, that when my mother passed when I was 7 years old, so it was my dad. He was working 10-hour days. He worked 7 to 7, and even on Saturdays. But I saw him, but didn't see him. I had my brothers, my sisters, and we kind of reared each other. So like my older brother, he was like, make sure you go to school. Make sure if I graduate, then you're gonna have to graduate. And told my sister, then if you graduate, then you have to graduate. And that's how it trickled down to me. I had no choice. I had to do right. I had to do everything I needed to do, stay in line. So we all graduated.
Wow. And I know while the book does not delve into all the complexities surrounding the absence of the father in many children's homes, according to the Times Democrat, you said that it's too
Mm-hmm.
far often in society that, quote, we see young mothers, grandmothers, aunties, female caregivers having to raise boys to become men without any male support. What are the other typical complexities that relates to Alex's story?
Yeah. Well, again, by the mother being there and the father's no father of their own, it's system. This is system.
Yeah.
It's the system. Point blank. Again, the father had to go out and work, had to find work. Um, Fathers back in the 70s, they couldn't stay in their homes because the mother was on either on the welfare of the system, and fathers weren't allowed to be around. If they were,
Mm.
then their resources of checks would be cut off. Then they had to go into the military to say, well, listen, I got to go. I'm drafted. It's part of separation system, and you know, penalized for once you go to the penal system. Once you go through the penal system, prison imprisonment, and once you get out, then you have no voting rights. You can't get the jobs that you need to get. You can't. You're being kept down. So it's a system. And so therefore the women were provided. It's done by the system to disproportion the fathers out of the male figure out of the household. And so in saying so, we're fighting our way back from something we should have had long time ago. Just being disproportioned by the system, and it's not, and it's like the unfairity of it. So therefore, you have the mother there providing, and the grandmothers and the aunts and the sisters doing all the things that we want to do but can't do. So once we correct the system, then we can fix this problem that we have. And we want to have so many young boys and girls seeing mommy all day long.
Mm. And what is something that Alex wanted to do but just couldn't do as a kid?
Ah, well, he started off with a path of because they were growing in the inner city, and eventually they were to move to the south, where life is more pleasant, decent, fresh air, out of the city stuff that's going on. What he couldn't do was get out and ride a bike. Just a
Mhm.
simple thing.
Yeah.
Couldn't get out on the streets, and you had to grow up as a grown up, and the things were difficult. So but the sequel is going to tip off of what's going to the upcoming as to how he's going to persevere through this,
Oh
and
man.
how he is now.
Yeah, and I hope to get you back
Wow,
on that. Right, absolutely. And I hope to get you back on for that as well. But
absolutely.
how do the black men and the black women continue to break down that system that you mentioned earlier?
Equal opportunities. Here it is within the system. We have um, within the employment scale. Say for example, you say, okay, well, the minority. Let me hire a minority. So if I hire a black woman or a person of color, then I'm killing two birds with one stone. As opposed to so let me hire this black male who's very qualified, and so I'm gonna do this with two birds with one stone concept. So you hire a female, and she's a person of color. So you got both. So you fulfill that. But however, you're leaving out the individual one and out of the equation, and that the equal opportunity is what I'm shooting at here. The equal opportunity is that what we need to persevere in order to do what we need to do within the households. So that's the difference, and that's why we're not getting what we need to have on tape.
Vincent Pendarvis, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you, Jim. Thank you. Now, listen, we'll do the sequel.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely.